Welcome to What Burning Out 4 Times Taught Me About Building a Fulfilling Business and Finding My Flow. This is a mini training for coaches, consultants, and course creators who want to bring something new and fresh to their clients without sacrificing their health or well being. So, this training is for you if on the surface things look great. You're making good money, your clients love you, they're getting great results, and you're building a really solid reputation for yourself. But behind closed doors, the way that you're building your business isn't working for you anymore. It's stressful. It's starting to impact your health, and it is sucking the joy out of your work. You've tried all your usual strategies and tactics, still no change. You've even followed the advice of business people that you really respect and admire, and still nothing is really shifting how frustrated you feel about your business. So, figuring out your next best step is what this training is all about. So if you know that something's got to change in your business, but you don't know what, and you're going back and forth between burning your business to the ground and just walking away for good, or making a huge investment in some business coaching or a business mastermind, then this training is especially for you. So, what I'm going to share in this training is not what I learned in a book, and it's not what I learned from a business mentor or a coach. What I'm teaching you is what I really learned the hard way after 4 really severe couldn't get out of bed burnouts and thousands of dollars invested in business programs that either I wasn't ready for or weren't actually what I needed at the time. So at the end of this short training, you're going to understand the one thing that you need to solve that will have the biggest impact on your business. Are you ready? All right, so let me share who I am before I jump into the training. I want to share a little bit about who I am and my perspective so you can decide if you even want to listen to me. I'm really big on not wasting your time, so I want to give you this information up front so you can decide if you want to spend 20 more minutes watching this training. So, for 20 years, I worked in the social justice nonprofit world. And for 10 of those years, along with my full time job, I had a side business. At first, I worked as a birth doula on the side, and then I did some training consulting on the side, and then I worked as a life coach. So I've been a certified life coach for 15 years now, and I was trained in a modality that's based on the mind body spirit connection. So if that doesn't align with your perspective and how you see the world, then you can go ahead and click off right now because we're probably not a match. So I spent a lot of years studying and researching in certification programs and academic programs, different institutions, because I really wanted to understand the science and the psychology behind the coaching models that I was taught. And I wanted to make them even more effective for the Black people, the Indigenous people, the people of color that I was working with, people who were queer, who were neurodivergent. And so I eventually went back to school to get my master's in integral psychology. So, integral psychology again focuses on the whole human, so the mind body spirit connection, and really looks at psychology from a Western and Indigenous perspective. So, when I was studying, I really specialized in somatic or body based trauma healing and resilience building tools. So, what really motivated my years of study and training and research were my personal struggles. I lived with mental health challenges for most of my adult life, and that also led to me having struggles with productivity. So, I would cycle between procrastinating and avoiding my work to the last minute and then pushing to get stuff done. Or I would overwork and overcommit and just push myself to burn out. So there's probably not a book on productivity, perfectionism, or procrastination that I haven't already read. And I've also tried out most of the planners and time management systems out there. So when I was doing all of this work, like there's a combination of me applying what I was learning in my coaching programs, applying what I was learning in psychology, um, degree, and also my own desire and like misperception that there was something wrong with me that I needed to fix. So through all of this, I would like experience periods of like really fun flow where I would just get lost in my work. It would just feel so fun. It would feel so energizing. I'd be really productive, but I'd really just be at peace. And then other times where, I was procrastinating a lot in really just painful ways and work just felt really grueling and hard. And it was hard for me to be consistent. And so, this personal experience with the inconsistency, like my work history, my entrepreneurial experiments on the side, really led me to the revelation that I'm going to share with you in this training. And this revelation really helped me understand why sometimes I could find my flow, and then other times work would just feel joyless and draining. So, if you're still here, thank you for listening, and let's go ahead and jump into the good stuff. So I want to start with giving you some context, and I want to share a diagram that I mapped out of a framework that I developed that really helped me intentionally map out how I wanted to work so that I could more consistently get into flow and feel more consistent and fulfilled in my business. And it's a method and a framework that not only worked for me, but also works with the people, the clients that I was working with as well, and the students that I have. And, even to this day, I think it was like 2, 3 months ago, I got a call from someone that I work with maybe like 5, 6 years ago, who was telling me that they still refer back to the work that we did together in our float activity session and just how impactful it was to them. So I know that this method isn't just something that works for me, it's been helpful for other people. So here's what I realized. When we're working on a project, whether it's building a business or writing a book, we're taught to start here. We're taught to start with figuring out what it is that we want to do and then what actions we want to take. And we usually jump into making our lists of what it is, of the actions that we're going to take. But what I really learned the hard way is that when we start with what we're doing, we're actually skipping 3 really crucial steps that we need to focus on first. So, the first step we need to get clear about is our desire, which is what is it that we really, really want. And oftentimes people think that they're clear about what they want, but really they're chasing what I call shadow desires and not chasing after their root desires. So, as a business owner, it's really important that you know whether you're focused on a shadow desire versus a root desire, because these two types of desire come from really different places and they also will lead you to really different places. And only one of them is going to lead you to a satisfying and fulfilling business, and the other one is going to lead you to disappointment and burnout. As someone who's been there repeatedly, I can really attest to that. So, shadow desires are coming from a part of you that wants to prove yourself and that secretly believes that you don't really, really deserve what it is that you really, really want. Your root desire, on the other hand, is coming from your spirit or whatever part of you that you call it, like whatever you call the part of you that knows that you were born worthy and that you never have to do anything to prove it. So your spirit, to me, is also the part of you that can't be wounded. It's not affected by trauma. It's not impacted by violence or oppression. Of course, your ability to relate to your spirit may be distorted and impacted by trauma and like violence and oppression, but your spirit itself is going to remain intact. So the key to like finding and being able to listen into what your root desire is starts with like really taking care of your body and settling down like your systems enough so that your reactive survival responses are quieted down enough so that you can actually listen into what your creative spiritual self has to contribute and wants you to hear. So, this root desire work of identifying what your root desire is the first place that I start with any client that I work with. And in the 90-minute breakthrough session that I'm going to be telling you about later, we start with finding your root desire, making sure that you're building a business that's aligned with your root desire and not a business that's aligned with someone else's idea of what a successful business should quote unquote be. Okay. All right. So let's move on. So the second step that we tend to skip over is facing your energy drains. And here's a truth that doesn't get talked about enough in entrepreneurship and in self-development is that whenever you're moving towards your desire, you are going to come face to face with all the patterns, all the beliefs, all the ways of being that cannot coexist with your desire. So that means that these are the things that you're going to need to release. These are the patterns and beliefs that you're going to need to release if you want your desire in your life. And because these patterns and beliefs and ways of being conflict with what it is that you want, it creates a lot of tension, friction, and challenges in your life. Now, when this happens, people usually make one of two mistakes. They either think there's something wrong with them or they think there's something wrong with their desires. So when they think there's something wrong with them, they think that, oh, I'm struggling and things are hard right now because I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I really don't deserve what it is that I want. Or they think that they're being punished for being too greedy for wanting what they want. Or when they think there's something wrong with their desire, they think that, oh, they want the wrong thing and they start second guessing it. And they either like drop it and, settle for another desire that actually isn't really what they want, but it's just what they believe that they can have. And so you can see how this makes a huge difference in terms of like being able to give you the energy to actually really go after what it is that you really, really want. Because the truth is, there's actually nothing wrong. Like, even though you're bumping up against and experiencing this conflict, like, that's actually just a healthy part of the creation process. And it's designed that way because you do want to know and you do want to come to the surface all the things that would get in the way or make getting your desire harder or make it harder for you to hold on to your desire once you move towards it. And that's exactly what these patterns and beliefs and ways of being are showing you. They're showing you, like, hey, this thing that you want, it's really conflicting with this really comfortable way that we have of moving in the world and understanding the world. And so I refer to these like conflicting patterns as energy drains because they really drain your energy and they distract your energy away from focusing on your desire and being able to move towards it wholeheartedly. So also with drains, you can have a root energy drain or a regular energy drain. So I'm going to be talking more about this in a few minutes. But for now, just know that your root energy drain is basically the source of all your other energy drains. So anytime you come up against an energy drain, it's either the source of all your drains or it's a symptom of a root energy drain. More than likely, what you're coming up against is actually the surface level symptom of a deeper root energy drain. And you get to discover what that root energy drain is if you have the ability to sit face to face with your energy drain and actually investigate and dig deep enough to figure out what it's connected to and what its source is. Now, the third key that is a key step that we tend to miss over is design. And this step is really about designing your business and how you're working around how you're designed to do your best work. Now, one of the biggest shortcomings with a lot of like goal setting and productivity programs out there is that they only focus on one aspect of yourself, but not your whole self to figure out like what it is that would be really fulfilling and supportive to you. So, for instance, some programs are really heavy on mindset. So they overly focus on your mental body and your thoughts, but they neglect your physical, emotional, energetic, and spiritual bodies. So, in the float activity method, I consider and work with all dimensions of the self. And this allows me to guide you to find your unique way of working. And then based on that, create a business that's going to be sustainable and enjoyable for you. But it's also important when you get clear about how you're designed to do your best work, then it also allows you to be really flexible so that you can respond to whatever season you're in your life or whatever unexpected change life is bringing you. So you don't have to come up with this like rigid format of the way that you need to work or the way that you need to set up your business. You get to adapt it because you really understand on a deep level what works best for you. So when you've taken care of these three steps, now you're ready to go and create a to-do list that you're actually going to be able to do. It's actually going to feel a lot more fun and it's going to be easier to do it from a state of flow because you're going to have more energy available. All your energy and attention isn't going to be drained and diverted in all these different directions because it's dealing with all these drains or it's trying to operate in a way that actually isn't really aligned with who you are. So, one of the biggest mistakes that most entrepreneurs make when they're building their business is that they think they're in the do phase, and they think they're at the stage where they need to write their to-do list, figure out what their strategy is and start getting those steps down and putting them in their calendar. But the reality is they're actually in their drain phase. And instead of making ambitious to do lists, what they need to be doing is focusing on facing the beliefs, the patterns, the ways of being that are diluting their energy, diluting their focus, and diluting their creativity, and really sitting with it to figure out what the source of these drains are so that they can plug it up. And the only way that they're going to be able to build a business that is truly in flow, that really feels fun and fulfilling, is if they do this really important work of draining up the root energy drain. So here's a metaphor to illustrate why plugging up your root energy drain first is so important. So the leaks in this picture are all these energy drains. So these are the things that show up in business, like your stress headaches, your annoying clients, your confusion about what the next strategy is that you should try. And most of us feel frustrated in our business because, like this person in this picture, we're running around trying to plug up all these drains showing up in our life and showing up in our business. And frankly, it's an impossible job because we don't have enough buckets and not enough hands and feet to really make that happen. But we still keep trying and get more and more frustrated in the process. So the leaks, even though they look like the problem, they're not actually the problem. They're just symptoms of a bigger issue, which is the root energy drain. So when you're focused on the symptoms and the small energy leaks, and you're using all your energy to try and find a bigger bucket or a better bucket, or, oh no, you need to go empty the bucket because now it's overflowing, all of that is exhausting and it's never ending because the pipe isn't going to stop leaking on its own, but you're not able to give any attention to actually figuring out what the source of the leak is and stopping it at the root, right? So that makes sense. But it's not how we operate, right? We operate a lot like this person in this picture, trying to plug up all the energy drains and the symptoms that are showing up in our life. So that was my revelation. Like it just hit me where I was like, wait, I don't need to be working on these goals. Like the only goal I need to have right now is to figure out what's the source of all these energy drains and plug that up first. So I know it sounds simple, like, oh, yeah, I need to find the source of all my energy drains first and plug that up. But it's not as simple as it sounds because it's an emotional process. Like we're talking about facing patterns that really we'd frankly rather ignore or avoid because these are patterns that have served us. They're patterns that we've used to survive and get to the point where we are now. So they're really comfortable. And so having to sit with them and acknowledging, like, hey, this is actually causing me a lot of tension right now. It used to serve me at one point, but it's not serving me anymore. That is like a huge step. It's like it requires like courage to actually do that and to try and investigate and figure out and begin the process of like letting go, which is involves like grief and sadness, and it's an emotional process. So it makes sense why we unconsciously avoid this step of figuring out, being able to sit with our energy drains enough to figure out what the source of these drains are. Plus it also takes time. And I know a lot of you are thinking like, wait a second, I don't have time to like figure out what my root energy drain is and plug it up. Like I have a business I need to run. I have clients I need to serve. I have a team that I need to pay. But the truth is, without plugging up your root energy drain, you won't really be able to create a fulfilling business that is going to feel good to work on and isn't burning you out because you're leaking so much energy and eventually it's going to catch up with you. And so, in the long run, you have to think about how much time you're going to save yourself, how much money you're going to save yourself, how much energy you're going to save yourself if you actually slow down enough to sit with your symptoms and deal with the source of them once and for all. And, the truth is that with energy drains, you don't need to wait till you plug it up completely before you start feeling better. Like, even just turning your attention to it, acknowledging and identifying what it is, and coming up with a plan for how you're going to plug it up is already going to give you back at least like 75% of your energy back. You're going to feel the shift. People feel a noticeable shift. And because really, when you're working with a root energy drain, if you've really identified a root energy drain, it is going to take you at least, like, the minimum is like 6 months, but at least and usually a year to plug up. And so it's not like you have to wait for that whole period to go through and be like, okay, now it's completely plugged up. Now I can go back to building my business. Like, no, just being able to address it, identify it, come up with a plan, and create your to-do list based on that plan of what you need to do to plug up is all you need, because that just gives you back so much psychic energy and unconscious energy that you're using to kind of deny and push away like this root energy drain. Because again, like I said, it's challenging to face. So, if you're ready to discover what your root energy drain is, I have designed an offer for you that will help you discover your root energy drain in 90 minutes or less. And I'm able to promise that because I use a unique assessment tool called Human Design that helps me quickly hone in on what your root energy drain is. So, to learn more about my float activity breakthrough session and how I work, go ahead and click the link below to get more details about what I'm offering. And feel free to email me if you have any questions, or hit another link to set up a free sales call with me to learn more about the program. All right. Wishing you lots of flow and fulfillment in your business.